All right,
Okay.
guys. So I'm Miguel Torres. This is Vivian Morimoto, an amazing English teacher that I've met recently. She's been on another one of our shows on our podcast before. Talked about a lot of things. If you want, the link is going to be in the description. And today we're going to talk a little bit about marketing and teaching, the balance between that and the balance at home, right? Between our work, family. Vivian is a mother of two. I have no idea how she does that, right? How she's a mom, a wife, and also a full time teacher. So, Vivian, tell us a little bit about that, how that journey is, right? Of balancing
Yeah.
your personal
Hi,
life with your
guys.
professional life.
Welcome back, or welcome if it's the first time that you're
Yeah.
watching us. But yeah, talking about that's a good topic to talk about how to balance personal life, right, with kids. And I also have a pet, which is almost like a kid. You also have a pet, right,
I have a
Miguel?
pet. Yeah. It's almost like a kid for
Yeah,
sure.
right. So yeah, uh, well, just to let you know, I I used to work for an agency, an exchange program agency before in the teaching department. Okay, I used to teach the kids to for the TOEFL and the SAT, ACT, the exams that you have to take for you to get approved and start college in the United States or high school. And then after that, so while I was there, I had my first child. So I decided to leave the job and start my own business, mostly because of my child, because I realized that I was missing too much like time, uh, uh, like because I thought it would be like something okay for me to handle, but then I realized I was like missing that, like spending the day with him. And so I decided to quit the job, mostly because of him.
Right.
And then I was like, why not, continue teaching from home? Because I was doing that already. And why not like just like keep doing that full time? And then I saw that I actually liked that. The way that it was, the job was, I feel like it felt better, and it fit better my life at the time. I didn't have to like spend the whole day. I could like work with my own schedule, and that was the first thing why I decided to start teaching online. And then, but nowadays that I have two kids, I I try, like I always tell my friends that the hardest part about having children for me is like not being able to work as I wanted to. But mm, I feel like this year I got a little more mature, and I'm aware that at time like just goes by so fast. And I think nowadays I'm more like um in peace with myself related to that. So nowadays, I know I only teach when my husband actually is at home, so he can watch, he can look after the kids while I'm teaching. So my classes they mostly happen in the very morning when he is at home, when he's not at the company, and at night, you know. But at the same time, I've been noticing that it's not that good. It's not perfect, right? But it's the best scenario that I could find, because I always like I can never have dinner with them. By the time I finish class, they're about to turn in, and and in the very morning, sometimes they wake up earlier, and I miss that time, spending that time with them. But nowadays they don't go to school full time.
Mhm.
Last year they were going to school full time, so This year they're only going to school in the afternoon, so I
Hmm.
spend the whole morning with them. Like going to taekwondo, swimming classes, and all that. So it's been good. It's been good, like to just bond with them, hang out with them. Yeah, it's been great.
Fantastic.
But it's
Awesome.
a little exhausting. Yeah, it's a little exhausting. Sometimes I want to talk to my students and they don't understand. They sometimes they don't know how to like. They don't know that I have to work sometimes because one of them is 6, the other one is 3. So and sometimes I'm like talking to the students, messaging them, and they're like screaming in the back. But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I know for sure. That the the clashing of both realities sometimes is an interesting mix, right? You're a
Yeah,
mom and you're also a teacher. Um, I guess all of us have kind of parallel lives when it comes to teaching, right? Especially
yeah.
teaching online.
Teaching
Right.
online, right? And like
And
having your own business, right? Like you
yeah, for
do a
sure.
little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure. And about your husband, like I think it's when we're English teachers, if our significant other, or husband or wife, they're not on board, it feels like sometimes we're pulling in opposite directions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've had
Yeah.
relationships in the past where my ex girlfriend wanted me to maybe work in a bank or work in, be an assistant at some place. And for some
Right.
reason, that was looked at as a more, let's say, an actual profession other than
Yeah, for
English
sure.
teaching.
I can see
And
that.
then, and so, your husband with the, how has your husband been, right? With
Mm-hmm.
all the things that
Right.
have happened in your life since I imagine you've been together since before you started teaching.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So my husband, thank goodness, he is very supportive.
Hmm.
Okay. He's always support like he actually believes in me more than I do. Like
Oh,
he
really?
he actually sees my job, as a real job. How
Uh huh.
that what we can say, right?
Yeah.
And I remember at the beginning I would only see it as a like, as a hobby, as a part-time job,
Hmm.
and he will always like supporting me and seeing like other teachers online, so he's always like, oh, you should totally do that, that would be I think that would be good for you. You know how to handle people, you know how to like, you're very extrovert and all that, you know how to do all those things. And I'm like, actually, I'm not what you think I am. And he's actually like very supportive. Like whenever I have like, let's say I have a class that was rescheduled, I have to talk to this student. Like he would like cancel anything he has to stay with the kids for me to talk to this uh, student. And yeah, so but I can see what you're saying, Miguel. Like I can see like a lot of people, like there are a lot of like memes right online that I've seen, like, oh, what do you do besides teaching? But like, what's your real job, right?
Yeah.
People saying like, yeah, I mean, that's my real job.
Yeah,
I'm an
that's a
English.
job.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's maybe yeah, I guess like people, yeah, I know, like in the beginning I'd always see more as a side hustle, than
Hmm.
a real job. And my husband would always see as a real job, oh, this is your job, it's your company, and I'd be like, no, I'm just like, I don't know, like I wouldn't see myself as he saw.
Uh
But yeah,
huh.
right. And what about you, Miguel, nowadays?
Nowadays, I think things are very balanced. Me and my wife, we have different roles here, but I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's very difficult because her schedule is actually very different from mine. So when it comes to social gatherings, things that I do with my friends or with others, it's really hard to fit her into the my schedule,
Right.
and vice versa. No, no. She's a professional chef in a
Oh,
restaurant,
nice.
so she has a lot of responsibilities. And seeing that reality, it it does kind of put the onus on me with the
Mhm.
flexibility or the semi flexibility that I get with teaching online,
Right.
uh, for me to kind of adapt my schedule to hers. So that is a constant struggle, aligning the schedules for things that are important for us, for moments that are interesting and necessary, like rest times or
Yeah.
physical exercise or things like that, or even like vacation. I feel sometimes really tough.
Right. Well, but Miguel, in your case, like she has uh like a different time schedule than the usual, right?
Yeah,
Like she
completely.
doesn't work 8 to 5, for example, as most people do, right?
Yeah, no, she has, it's very random. Like she works with events, right? So she's a
Uh-huh.
chef at a
Usually she
restaurant's
works when
events
we
house.
are resting, so right,
Yeah,
kind of.
most of the time. But the thing is, we have very different schedules. Like right now, she's starting to work now at 2 p.m. and
Right.
she's gonna go until like 4 p.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m.
Right. Yeah, I see.
You know,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's
and
like I have a friend. She's a journalist, and like yeah, we can never get together. Like it's very like oh, we need to schedule with her like maybe like 3 months before the event, because she works like she's covering something that is happening like at night, like Saturday night she's working. Yeah, like something happened. That's her schedule. So it's really hard. Like sometimes there's some like jobs that have this different schedule than the usual, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
And I guess the support, I never really felt a lot of support from her in the sense of like she supports my work. She just kind of like accepted it as my work, you know? It was never like, oh, you should do this, try something else, I
Okay.
believe in you, and things like this. No, I don't think that was ever a part of our dynamic, you know? It was just kind of her
Right.
doing her job and me doing my job, which in some ways is really helpful because then I can just really
Uh-huh.
network and do what I have to do. But otherwise, it's a little bit annoying because she does live in a very separate bubble from my own. So for her to
Yeah.
understand my work and kind of like um, understand what I do, it is almost non-existent actually.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. But that's good, right? As long as like we are, yeah, I don't think we have to support each other, right? We just have to respect each other, like our how our jobs are, right? And that way I think things will flow perfectly.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, the next question is about the balance, right? So I think when it comes to balance with your significant other, I guess you guys kind of like help each other out to
Yeah.
find that balance.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that if you didn't help each other out, you would have that balance as well or not?
No, I don't think so. Because like I always, I mean, we have our like we are, for example, here in my house, nowadays with the kids, we we don't have like the same amount of responsibilities. Like it can't be 50-50. We've tried before, but it's almost like impossible. Like it's impossible for him to be like the amount of time that I spend with the kids with him. You know, it's impossible for me to work as much as he does. So, in fact, I came to that because I listened to a podcast from with what's her name, Michelle Obama,
Hmm.
and she said like, and she made me think about that because I would always expect him to do like the same thing that I do, but it's almost impossible. At like so, she said uh, at certain point of your life, you will do more than your spouse, and that will happen eventually with him as well. So what you have to be aware is that sometimes you will do more, sometimes the other person will do more, and at the end of the life, right? You guys will have an average, right? But for example, like he was the president, for a few years. So their duties were different, right? So she would stay with the kids more than he would do because he couldn't, right? And that's okay. So as long as we understand that, it's fine, because I would always like complain, like, oh, you don't do this at home. You don't, I don't know, like stupid things like you don't water the plants as much as I do, or you don't hang the clothes uh as many times as I do, some stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I
keeping score on the chores.
Exactly, right? So nowadays, I understand that, like, I am in charge of some things in the house, he's in charge of others, and if we are, but I think that's harder for women to understand,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. I completely relate with that because that's literally, well, not the keeping score part. I think
okay,
that is definitely an Elia more thing to do. I'm more about the guy who waters the plants. I'm the guy who takes care of the house. I'm the guy who takes care of my work. I'm the guy who kind
okay,
of cleans around the house and keeps the house the way I try to keep it, you know.
right. Do you think
But
because you stay home more than she does,
yeah, hmm I mean,
right?
like for example, she had this morning free, right, from let's say the moment she woke up till two right now, which
Hmm.
is I've been giving class all morning and working. So until now, and I'm gonna go until 9 p.m. today. So
Wow.
like we have, like you said, that average, right? Sometimes we're gonna do
Right.
more,
At the
sometimes we're
end
gonna
of
do
the week,
less.
right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, at the end of the
Yeah.
week, you get that average, right? Um, so I guess when it comes to finding that balance, it's been really hard for me to find that balance for sure. It's been really
Yeah.
hard for me to find that sweet spot between I guess my time of work, her time of work, our time together, our quality time together, and I guess everything else. I'm not sure if it's also the city, right? I think Sao Paulo is a place that does
Yeah. We have
demand
this
so much energy.
working vibe, right? Business stuff. Like people are always like chasing to make more money. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that's a really big issue. Like I think um, the working culture of Sao Paulo is a little bit toxic.
It
And
is.
how would you say? I mean, you've lived in Sao Paulo your whole life, or have you lived in other
No,
places?
I lived in Maringá, Paraná,
Oh,
till 18, and then that's when I came to São Paulo to play for the national team, the softball national team. And then when I was 20, I moved to the States, and then I spent 4 years there, and then I came back to São Paulo. So I came back to São Paulo when I was, let me see, 2012. Yeah. And then I've been here since then. But yeah, São Paulo, like you kind of like when you said like this toxic environment, right?
yeah.
You kind of like feel bad for not work as much as people do,
Yeah.
when you talk to people, right? Yeah. So like you feel that you're being lazy or you're not as good as others are, right?
Yeah, there's that underlying competitive nature of Sao Paulo.
Yeah, totally. Hmm. So yeah, I used to live in a whole different city. Maringá is like really small, not small, but like it's a small city, So it's different. Yeah, everything's close. You have lunch at home. Like you go to the company and then you come back to have lunch at home. Still have some time to take a nap. It's like totally different.
Wow. Okay. So what is like, let's say if you lived the life you have today with your family,
Hmm.
your husband, same job, same everything, but in Maringá, what would be different?
It would be totally different. We've been thinking about that because of the kids.
Totally.
Because the yeah the yeah, life is so different there. Like for the kids, especially,
Hmm.
it's not as dangerous. I mean, everywhere is dangerous nowadays, but like it's not as dangerous. We don't feel like you can actually talk on your phone when you're in the street walking,
Okay. Uh-huh.
right? Like here, I can't even like I don't even I leave my phone at home if I'm gonna walk my dog, or
Yeah.
yeah, it's so like you don't really spend time in traffic there. Like the part I like when I go there on vacation, like I talk to my friends for when we're gonna get together, and they're like, "Oh, this is so far. It's like 20 minutes away." I'm like, "Really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. 20
It's
minutes is
so
like the
far.
closest place in Sao Paulo, right?"
Well, yeah, I guess depends where you live, but 20 minutes is not far at all. Like in Sao Paulo, you're
No,
like, oh, it's only 20 minutes away. Like
exactly.
today, this morning, actually, a friend of mine was telling me about Arasatuba that he goes constantly. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay, how far is Arasatuba from here? And he's like, oh, it's about 5 hours away. And I was like, oh, that's not far. Like, you can definitely do that in the
Okay.
future.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that. Wake up at 5 a.m., leave by 6, get there by
Right.
11, midday max, and then enjoy the weekend there, and then come back, you know?
Yeah.
And for us, that proportion of distance to
Yeah.
have a little bit of peace outside of the city, it's almost like pay 5 hours to get there. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
much more than like, I don't know, a day or anything like that. It's super doable. You know.
That's what I spend to go to the beach, right? On the
Yeah.
weekend. And traffic, that traffic jam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like also there's that proportion, right? Like people in Sao Paulo that work in person or in a company, they're gonna be spending that daily almost just in
Daily,
traffic.
for sure. Yeah. Uh-huh. I
I feel
used
that's
to,
also super draining. Sorry.
no, yeah, I was gonna say that I used to work in Alphaville,
Oh
and
wow.
that would take me like sometimes, yeah, 2 hours to come back. And because I live in downtown, so yeah, it would take me like 1 hour and a half. Yeah, to go there, and then 2 hours to come back.
Yeah, no, these things become normal, right? And I even question myself today, right? I really think about that. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
has become normal that is not good for me in this city?
Right.
What part of this hectic, working every day, trying to improve all the time, making money, going after uh, all of the different ends that we have to meet, like the health, finances, innovation, improvement in work, all of these little different ends, keeping them in a healthy space, in a good place, definitely depends on how good and how well my mental health is, my physical health is. So I really have to keep that in check. Almost like if the environment, I don't know if you feel the same, but almost as if the environment is working against your mental health, against
Yeah.
your emotional health, and you need to have like a constant battle inside out to
Yeah.
keep it at a normal level, which in a different environment, maybe that battle wouldn't be so constant if it wasn't for a different for the same culture.
Do you think social media plays like a big role
I do.
nowadays?
I think that. Sorry. In what?
Nowadays, do you think social media has a big role
In
related,
the
like
for me, what?
affecting mental health?
No, for sure. I think that social media in the city, like with people in the city, I feel it has a really big role in the pressure and anxiety to do what others are also doing. The kind of fear of missing out, the fear of not
Yeah.
knowing of what other people know, fear of not having experienced what other people have experienced, fear of not having anything to talk about when you're sitting at a table and they're talking about an X restaurant, because you haven't been there.
Yeah,
I feel there is a lot of like FOMO generated by social media in the
for
city.
sure.
You also see a lot of people traveling or going here or there on the weekends, and it becomes the temptation to compare yourself with that and be like, okay, where am I going on this weekend? Where am I traveling on my vacations?
Right.
What am I doing? Right? What do I have to show for my work? What do I have to show for the things that I've been doing all this time in this city?
For sure.
So I think that social media has that type of augmented peer pressure, which is in a lot of times it's just not real. Um, but I also think that apart from that, you have the addiction to social media that I think is much higher. The probability of doing that in the city is much, much higher because of the amount of stress and the things that you go through. Like just taking the train. Like if you went from Higienopolis to Alphaville today, every day, I'm pretty sure you'd be on your phone or listening to something on your phone
Oh yeah,
most of the time
absolutely.
on your way there and back, you know.
Probably.
And if you're in traffic or you're in a place that, you're waiting, you'd probably be on the phone and possibly on social media, as opposed
Hmm.
to maybe living in the countryside where you don't have all of these, let's say, distances and
Yeah.
stressors. You have contact with less smog in the sky and you have much more green around you. The ground, actual contact with the ground, with the soil, right? Going outside and smelling the trees, you know.
Yeah.
I think this is such a different experience that can be like a detox or, and kind of, I guess, challenging for people who are really used to living in the city. It's tough for them to stay quiet for a little while. I know it was for me. Um, but at the same time, once that detox is done, it seems to be such a much more simple, not easy, but less stressful life for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. It makes total sense. Like doing all these things that you said, like especially like getting stuck in traffic, right? It's a
Mhm.
temptation not to like grab your phone nowadays, right? So I don't know about
Mhm.
you, Miguel, but my finger goes straight, my thumb goes straight to like certain apps, like
So
when I
mine
grab
too.
it.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine goes directly to Instagram when I am stressed, which is a
Right.
fascinating realization. Like for me, when I notice this, I'm like, fuck, that is not the reaction that I want. And I kind of let go of the phone, go in another direction almost consciously because it's such a unconscious, kind of subconscious reaction of like, I'm stressed. Let me go for some endorphins. Let me go for some of that little pleasure that I see when I see a cat video or a reel online. You know what I mean? That's so definitely something that you definitely have to keep in check.
Well, you know what I did before I joined the meeting here?
Oh,
I was, because for some reason my calendar is not connected to my computer. So I had to find the link to access here on my phone.
uh-huh.
I caught myself checking Instagram and I was like, what am I doing?
What am I doing
What's
here?
it going?
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even like see myself doing that. I was like, how did I end up here? You know,
yeah,
it's so automatic. Yeah.
it is. And I think it's something to watch out for, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I guess now in this modern time, not only if we live in a city or not. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Uh-huh.
think that's another thing that I wanted to talk about, right? Now in this modern time with online, I think it's a difficult balance to have also using the phone so often to
Mhm.
market our work. Like we have to be online. That's another
Yeah.
kind of dichotomy of living in the city is that you have to be online. If you're not, it's almost like you don't exist or you
Right.
exist in the underground of the world.
Hmm.
People maybe get to know you by recommendations, word of mouth, and things like that. But you don't really show your work. You don't have a place to showcase your work. You don't have a
Yeah.
place to give students something that will reel them in later if they are a fitting prospect to your
Right.
work. And being online is the only way to do that. So how do you balance that as well? Like the marketing of your work, your, I guess, propensity to addiction online, like not being
Yeah.
there constantly and automatically.
Hmm.
And how do you balance that?
Yeah. So it's been kind of hard, actually, not gonna
Mm-hmm.
lie. And but for example, one of my students have told me that there is this there are some certain apps that you can actually like input the amount of time that you want to spend on social media. So it kind of like locks the Instagram, for example,
Oh,
uh, for you not to access it after that time is over, right? And but I've been thinking about that, but I was like, at the same time, if I do that, what if there is a prospect, reaching me out and the app is locked? I can't let the let's say the time's up and it's like 2 p.m., right? Like I'm not gonna let the prospect like hanging there, right? I have to talk to this guy. So I was like, maybe so, and sometimes when I'm like waiting for my kids to let's say the other day I was waiting for my son. He was in the taekwondo class, and a guy came up to me. He started talking to me, and it was such a great conversation. He said, nowadays with the cell phone, we don't really have much contact with people. We
mm-hmm.
spend it's more comfortable, right, to spend
Mm-hmm.
time on the phone, right? And I was like, yeah, it's true. And he was like, and we as grown-ups, as adults, we know that, we are aware of that, but what
Yeah.
about the kids? The kids were born with that. So how are they going to know the difference? They've never had the like, they were born in this generation. Like since they were born, they've had their phones. And it's been
Yeah.
tough because people were choosing like the he was telling me that his nephew, he asked him, like his nephew was 22, and he was like, when are you gonna have a girlfriend? When are you gonna have like someone? He was, and he told him that he doesn't want to have someone. I mean, I don't know if that was true, right? But the answer that he gave him was like, I don't want to have someone because my phone is my companion,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and I was like, that kind of like
So
scared me.
crazy.
Well, I have two kids, and it is super comfortable. And then I started to realize that my life, like nowadays, like it's funny to say, like I always say that in a sarcastic way, saying that, oh, I love like on the weekend, just like I just want to spend some time on my couch scrolling, But at the same time, I'd rather have that than like hanging out with my friends sometimes, And I'm like, I can't do that, I know it is more nowadays, with this addiction to the phone. Like it is comfortable, right, to spend time scrolling, but I can't replace that over like hanging out with my friends, right? So I don't even know what we were talking about. What your
We were
question
talking
was.
about the phone, right? The phone and the kids.
Right. To balance, right? To have this
Mm-hmm.
balance. And then I tell my husband sometimes, it is so hard because I have to be on Instagram, especially Instagram, right? And YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and because of my work. But sometimes I catch myself just like spending time with stupid videos, like melting my brain. I always tell him, I'm like melting my brain here, like watching these things like that are not even adding anything to my life. And it's so hard to like separate things, right? But it's just like, I guess, like you have to be aware, you have to like replace things that are uncomfortable sometimes. You have to do things that you don't want to do, because if not, uh it just gets worse, like I have to force myself to like have conversation with people, have contact with people. And especially because we teach online,
Yeah.
I realize that Like I love teaching online. But if someone tells me, "Oh, let's hang out in person," right? It's just like for me, it's like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to get ready. I'm gonna have to get the kids ready," and it's like a chaos in my head.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I know what you mean.
it's just like so comfortable. And I have to step out of my comfort zone sometimes, to keep that balance.
Yeah, fuck, that's so true. That's so
Yeah.
true. I think the
What about
comfort is also tough, right? For me, that's a huge deal. I have friends that live nearby, and meeting them for even coffee is just so tough. It's not about me. I'm sorry.
yeah, exactly. Like I have like most of my friends live nearby, and it's so hard to grab some coffee together.
Yeah, some lunch, some anything, right? And it's really tough. It's not in any way easy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really tough to kind of go through this strange world where you're living 500 meters away from someone else and it doesn't fit into your schedule or theirs. And it's always something that you're trying to make work, but other priorities keep in the way, like work, family, these type of things, which obviously they're priorities, but it's just such a fascinating world where here you don't have this touch. You're not in touch with any of these people
Yeah.
in person,
Yeah.
regardless of them living really really close by to you and being really good friends. Whereas
Mhm.
I sometimes see the reality of some of my students in other places. Like I have one that lives in Hondonopolis, right?
Mm. Okay.
Which is in God knows where in in Brazil. It's
Hmm.
really far away. And I look at this neighborhood. The neighborhood looks like the perfect little neighborhood. Just like a bunch of little houses, really nice paved streets, a lot of green, and all the kids play on the streets
Hmm.
with each other since they were children, since they were little babies. And
Right.
the parents know each other, the neighbors know each other. They have like snacks at each other's house. The neighborhood kids come and sleep over at someone's house, someone's birthday, a pajama party or whatever. And you think about that, and I'm really tempted to think, wow, is that a world that is totally inaccessible to me now? Is it ever going to be accessible to me in the sense of me going out of this city and looking for a place like that where I can have a measure of peace, healthy contact with people and with nature, and balance between work and my health?
Yeah. Uh, what do you think about like how is it for you like to get out of your routine? For example, you have your schedule, right? Planned. You have your week, like on Monday, you start this way, and then you already kind of like have everything that you do every day, right? Like, for example, going to jujitsu, giving classes, and then you have like preparing lessons, and then, like, how do you feel like if someone, like a really good friend of yours, like texts you, hey, I'm around. Do you want to hang out? Like, do you have like 40 minutes? And you do have this 40 minutes. It's going to be a little tight. Your schedule's going to be a little tight, okay? Uh, but how is it for you? Like, do you think you're like, even if you go, let's say you're gonna say, okay, I'm coming down. Okay, are you downstairs? I'm coming. But like, what's your feeling towards that? Do you feel like, oh my god, like really happy, just happy, or like, what a mess? It's gonna be a mess. Like my day is gonna be a mess, but I'm gonna go. Like, what's your feeling towards that?
My feeling is like, fuck, another thing in my schedule.
Okay, right?
It's like, okay, well, this wasn't planned or expected, and I guess it depends. I am super guilty of the closer my friends are, the the less they become a priority in terms of like seeing them becomes less of
because
a priority.
yeah, you
It's like, oh,
think
they're
I'm
still alive. We can
always
see them
gonna see them.
anytime. Yeah, yeah. So like if it's someone else from like another country or from like another state that I haven't seen them in a long time, then I'll probably be really excited to see them, and I'll probably make some time to see them. But other than that, I feel like, yeah, if I'm being really honest, the guy lives close by and he has a few minutes. I'm gonna be like, nah, let's try that at a different time when I have more time or when I'm not so
And they
rushed,
always keep
and
pushing
it
it.
just and it just keeps pushing it forward, And I think like we talked about like how difficult it is to see others, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons, honestly. Like I am my own worst enemy type deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And stuff.
I know what you mean. So yeah, so since ever I had that conversation with that guy, right? I've been thinking about that. So for example, today, this morning, there's this friend of my son's that he moved to England, and he's in town now. So I'm like, this morning they wanted to hang out. So I was like, I'm not gonna be that person that can't have flexibility, because this morning my son had soccer practice. But then I was like, you know what? We're canceling soccer practice today. We're gonna hang out with Hafa because Hafa is in town, like God knows when you're going to see him again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to teach my kids that we have to have flexibility sometimes as well,
Uh-huh.
like, so it's okay to cancel soccer today. You're going to have 3 other lessons this month. Okay, no problem. Let's see Hafa. So we hung out for just a few hours, maybe like 2 hours max, but it was great, for
Yeah,
them
that's
to
nice.
bond. I mean, because if not, they're going to start losing this connection, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, even if they don't like play with each other the whole time, even if they like start, because you know how like you haven't talked to the person for a while, so you kind
Yeah.
of like lose this connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, whatever, figure it out. Be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know exactly how
Yeah,
you feel. That's so true. And that's a good point to like for us to stop on, I think. Thinking about what are the things. I think that the way we see the relationships that we have, what are the ways that we see the relationship that we have? What are the priorities that we give to those relationships? And how much are we actually neglecting ourselves in when we get lost in the culture of this city like Sao Paulo,
yeah,
which can really engulf you. So
so
I think
many layers.
so many layers. Yeah. And like, guys, if you guys are watching, if you guys got all the way here, guys, tell us how you guys deal with this. Like, if you live in the city, if you live in, I don't know, if you live abroad, if you live in, I don't know, maybe the countryside or someplace that's beautiful and green, tell us how it is like for you. How is your reality? What is your work-life balance like, if that exists? And what do you prioritize? The connections, the
Yeah,
people, or work more than anything? Right? Leave it in the
right.
comment section or send us a message. You can find Vivian at, where can they find you?
Instagram at teacher Vivian Morimoto.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you can find me at Instagram as well, at Miguel.mtorres. And that's the game, guys, for today. I think that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for sticking around until now. Um, but that's it. Do you want to say anything else again?
Don't forget to subscribe, hit
Don't
the
forget to
bell
subscribe, like,
down below.
notification bell. Let's get that shit done today. It's
Yes.
going to help us so much. Let's go, guys. If you guys got all the way here, it's not
Uh-huh.
going to be that painful. It's a little click, a little like, a little subscribe. And if you think it's useful for anyone, give it a little share as well. Right?
Yeah. Thank you guys. See you
Thank you
next
guys. See you
time.
guys next time. Bye bye.